It's Thanksgiving week. Welcome in. Some decisions being made by the Reds, some players no longer with the Reds, and some players that will be sticking around with the Reds, at least for the foreseeable future. Welcome in, everybody. Chatterbox Reds. I'm Craig Sandlin, joined as always by Nick Kirby. Nick, are we ready for Thanksgiving?
Yeah, ready for Thanksgiving. Just doing a nice little stay at home Thanksgiving with the fam, which
Okay.
is a very underrated thing, to be honest. A
Yeah,
nice
we're doing the
chill
same thing.
Thanksgiving. Yeah.
Yeah, my mom's in town, so we're doing the same thing, just the four of us doing Thanksgiving on Thursday. But remind me, if I remember correctly, the Kirby family does Black Friday as well as just about any family in the country. Is that right? Are you guys doing
Yes.
it this year again?
Well, I mean, I got 4 kids, man. Not me. I know that my siblings back in Cincinnati will be going ham on Black Friday. Me, I'll just be partaking in some steak because turkey sucks.
And speaking of which, if you aren't interested in leaving the house on Black Friday, you can still get some shopping done. Omaha Steaks has you covered for your gift giving this holiday season.
Yeah. Omaha Steaks, the absolute best gift if you're looking for something for your loved ones. Good gift for pops. Holiday magic made easy with Omaha Steaks. You can always place orders by 6 p.m. Eastern, and they ship the same day. And right now, during their Sizzle All the Way sale, you get 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, our listeners get an extra $35 off with promo code Chatterbox at checkout. The steaks are incredible. I mentioned many times the apple tartlet's a perfect holiday dessert. My favorite package, if you're looking for one, I like the festive gift plus free burgers package. I think that's the best bang for your buck. So save big on gourmet gifts and more holiday favorites with Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com for 50% off site-wide during their Sizzle All the Way sale. And for an extra $35 off, use promo code Chatterbox at checkout. Terms apply. See site for details. That's omahasteaks.com, code Chatterbox. All of that information is in the episode notes or the YouTube description below.
And speaking of Black Friday, make sure you keep an eye out. Chatterbox Sports Store special sale going on beginning Friday through December 10th. Support some of your favorite Chatterbox content creators. 100% of the proceeds will be going to the content creators to support them this holiday season as well. So make sure you mark your calendars for Friday. Make sure you get in there, get you some Chatterbox Reds gear, Chatterbox Bengals, even the Chatterbox Bearcats crew got some gear in there ready for you to help support your favorite content creators here from Chatterbox Sports. Appreciate any support that you guys are interested in. Plus, it'll be 2 shirts for $40 on Black Friday through December 10th. So make sure you check that out. And we will, of course, have a link to that in the description as well, but it is chatterboxsports.com/store. All right, Nick, let's get into it. Originally DFA'd, Carson Spiers is back.
Yeah, great news. I've said many times, big fan of Carson Spiers. Love everything about him. Undrafted free agent that worked his way up through the Reds farm system. Gave the Reds some good innings, and honestly, I think kind of got to the big leagues probably before he was ready. But it was a reliable arm. I think it made sense for the Reds to non-tender him just because he's going to miss most or possibly all of 2026. And it's just really hard to have a 40-man roster spot that you can't use for an entire season. And it's honestly for a guy that's more of a depth piece than anything else. But the Reds able to bring him back is good. It's a great thing. It's always good to have some depth. Maybe he is able to get back late in the year. And man, it's such a shot in the arm if you're able to get a fresh arm that hasn't pitched all year in September. You can't just go pick those guys up off the waiver wire, fresh arms like that. So it has the potential to help this team late or be another depth piece in 2027. But most importantly, it looks like the Reds gambled correctly. I know in our Discord there was some debate on if the Reds thought there was any chance of him being picked up or not. I know some people said they thought that this was kind of silly. The Reds could lose him. But when you're able to get a guy through waivers, you don't have to occupy a 40-man roster spot. you clearly made the right decision. And the Reds, however small you want to say it, it's a win here nonetheless.
Yeah, and sounds kind of petty to say, but saves them some money as well, as he'll be on an MILB deal instead of on the Major League roster. Obviously, those salaries are different, but it does feel almost like Major League Baseball should have some sort of ability for teams to utilize a 60-day IL over the offseason. I understand why they don't, because obviously if someone is hurt now, there's no reason to keep them on a 60-day IL if they're going to be back before spring training starts. But for someone like Spiers, who's expected to miss all of next year, it's almost like, okay, well, you can keep them on the 60-day IL, but they have to miss a minimum of X number of days into the season or something before they can be activated. If you keep them on the 60-day IL during the offseason, would make sense, but that's for the commissioner to figure out, I guess.
My guess is they're probably are worried about teams stashing a bunch of 60-day IL guys, or maybe even manipulating that to where they have guys that are on a 60-day IL that aren't necessarily injured. And I'm sure there's probably, I can think of maybe some logical reasons for that. Not to give Major League Baseball too much credit or anything. I think there might be some sound logic behind that.
Yeah, it's just tough for a team that knows that someone like Carson Spiers is not going to pitch for them in 2026 to, or at least a majority of 2026, not to be able to keep him on a major league deal, which obviously benefits the player. Who knows? Maybe that'll be something that the players union brings up during the anticipated negotiation here with the upcoming collective bargaining agreement. The Reds avoided arbitration with just one player so far this year. Obviously, there is plenty of time before the deadline to reach deals with players before arbitration negotiations officially go into effect. But left-handed reliever Sam Moll will be back with the Reds in 2026 now on a major league deal.
Yeah, so the deadline this week, just to explain it to people, was basically, do you want to continue with this player and have to pay them some sort of money going forward? It's not necessarily a full contract. There's some like opt-outs in spring training. I think it's like 15 days into spring training. I think you only have to pay like 800,000 of whatever. I don't know the exact figures on that, but basically the sum of it is you had to choose this past week. Do you want to continue with this player and be forced to pay this player some amount of money or not? The Reds, Sam Moll was probably the guy that was the closest on the cut line. So the Reds wanted to make sure that the figures made sense before continuing with him. Whereas the other guys, they can figure that out later is what I would imagine the thinking is. And the Reds actually got Sam Moll for $875,000 plus up to $150K in incentives, but that was well below his arbitration estimate, which was $1.2 million. So looks like a good deal for the Reds. I like Sam Moll. I think there's some upside there. This guy was an incredible pitcher for the Reds in 2023. He's dealt with a lot of injuries. I think there could still be something to take, and for what the Reds are investing and an organization that is not strong with left-handed relievers, makes sense to keep him. And yeah, maybe it's an absolute bust, but so what if it is? Really is kind of how I look at it.
I think it's good to bring him back. And it was interesting. He spent a little bit longer in Louisville than I think we kind of anticipated or expected him to spend towards the end of the season, as he was going through his kind of it wasn't even a rehab, if I remember correctly. It was just he had kind of lost his way.
Yeah, he got option down there. Yeah.
And but pitched well in Louisville, found some things, and then I think it's a good thing for a team who, if I'm not misremembering, has 0 other lefties in the bullpen currently under contract. Obviously, Brent Suter was the only other real left-handed pitcher that they had throughout 2025, and he was not renewed either. So Sam Moll's a good addition. Won't be the last left-handed reliever, I don't think, that they add this offseason. So we'll see how that goes. All right, well, you kind of walked through exactly what arbitration meant, but Reds decided not to tender deals to 2 players. Where were you, Nick, for the Rodddery Muñoz era?
Yeah, what a legendary career, Rodddery Muñoz, the guy that got picked up and didn't make it through. Yeah, we talked about Muñoz. Definitely a guy that has some talent, but certainly plenty of flaws in his game, like most relievers that kind of go through the waiver wire. I wouldn't rule it out, Craig, that he doesn't somehow find his way back to the Reds, because sometimes that kind of stuff does happen. Will Banfield, I guess, is the casualty of the Ben Rortvedt signing. I think the Reds just like Ben Rortvedt more, and I wouldn't be shocked if Banfield also finds his way back to the Reds organization. I'm sure he's going to kind of look around, see if there's anyone that'll offer him either a little bit more of some sort of bonus to sign with them on a minor league deal, or maybe he feels like there's a better chance of making the roster.
Yeah.
Now for Banfield, I mean, if there's 3 catchers ahead of him, which he now clearly knows there's 3 catchers ahead of him, he may want to find another opportunity.
Yeah. And Banfield was fairly highly regarded, and he didn't necessarily show it this year. He struggled not only at the major league level in the limited opportunities had, but also at the minor league level at the dish. Defensively, he's great. He's got one of the stronger arms in the game, and was always kind of thought of as a defensive, at least this year, was thought of more of as a defensive catcher. But offensively, he's got a high ceiling, or the expectation is that he has a high ceiling. So I would imagine that some team will give him an opportunity at least to compete for a major league roster spot this offseason. Whether or not he ends up on that major league roster come opening day will be yet to be determined. But I'm actually in the boat right now that I don't expect Will Banfield to be back with the Reds in 2026. So we'll see how that goes. But several players will, in fact, be back with the Cincinnati Reds. They now are eligible for arbitration, and the Reds will have an exclusive time period now to negotiate with them on a contract for 2026. Those players include Spencer Steer, Gavin Lux, Will Benson, Graham Ashcraft, TJ Friedl, Nick Lodolo, Matt McLain, Brady Singer, Tyler Stephenson, Tony Santillan, and Brandon Williamson. Reds have until February 15th to reach a deal before they officially head to arbitration and that mediator.
I think that's the biggest class as far back as I could search that the Reds had that many players. I do think there was a common misconception that I saw going around that, oh my gosh, the Reds didn't sign any of these players before the non-tender deadline. The Reds have not in recent years signed many players prior to the non-tender deadline. They avoid arbitration for the most part. But for the most part, kind of looking back through my research, it's basically in recent memory, the only players that have been signed ahead of the non-tender deadline have been the Sam Moll type. So wrote down some notes here, did a little bit of research. Last year, the Reds avoided arbitration with all 8 players: Stephenson, Alexis Diaz, Brady Singer, Gavin Lux, Nick Lodolo, Friedl, Moll, and Trevino. They reached an agreement with Santiago Espinal prior to the non-tender deadline. He was the Sam Moll of last year. 2024, Reds actually signed a 2-year deal with Jonathan India right before the deadline that you would have to go to arbitration. And then they avoided arbitration with everyone else. They signed Buck Farmer prior to that non-tender deadline. He was the only one that was signed. 2021, I believe, was the last time the Reds went to arbitration with the player. The Reds actually beat Lucas Sims in arbitration. Man, this is petty. Reds filed for $1.2 million, Sims for $1.6. It's kind of crazy how these come down to such small figures, but I guess it all adds up. 2018, this one's really interesting, Craig. Reds beat Eugenio Suarez in an arbitration case. Reds won at $3.75 million. He filed at $4.2 million. And you think, Craig, that's a big, ugly thing, right? Oh, they went to arbitration. You know, Suarez lost. He must be mad. Nope. Suarez signed a $66 million contract extension less than a month later with the Reds, the same contract that actually ended this past year. This past year with the Diamondbacks and with the Mariners was the last year of that original Reds contract that he had signed back in 2017. Reds extended Tucker Barnhart to a 4-year deal right before his first year of arbitration. 2016, I believe, was the last year that a player won in arbitration. That was shout out J.J. Hoover. J.J. Hoover was an arbitration winner. The difference in pay was $175,000 back in 2014. Reds signed Devin Mesoraco to a 4-year, $28 million contract right before his deadline. And in 2014, this is kind of wild, Reds signed Homer Bailey to a 6-year, $105 million deal on the same day that he was scheduled for an arbitration hearing. So just some interesting facts. I guess the biggest takeaway, Craig, is the Reds, at least in the last decade, have signed a lot of players to contract extensions right before. Now, hasn't been in a minute, but maybe some of these players, and that's maybe the thing I want to talk about maybe the most here, is which players might make sense here to like try to an actual contract extension as opposed to just getting through another year of arbitration. Deep South Commodities is a proud supporter of Chatterbox Reds and our Deep Drive of the Day, and DSC is a leader in renewable commodities for biofuel production, specializing in used cooking oil collection, aggregation, and sales. Visit www.deepsouthcommodities.com for more information. Thanks as always to our friends at DSC. And we also want to remind you that you can call or text 988 anytime, day or night. The 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is a place to get support for anything related to mental health. Whether it's an immediate crisis, simply wanting to find out how to connect with care, or anything in between, it's a 100% confidential, secure, and anonymous way to reach out for help when you don't know where else to turn. To connect, call or text 988 or visit mantherapy.org to get help. It's okay not to be okay.
Well, let's talk real quick. You mentioned Brady Singer. He's one of the players that the Reds will have to work with this offseason. You mentioned his 2023 arbitration case. Singer went to the table asking for $3.325 million. The Royals came to the table and won at $2.95 million back in 2023. And for those that are wondering, and obviously this plays into a bigger, larger dynamic in terms of the Reds' budget, which we know is going to be constrained in 2026 just based on the number of spots that they're going to have to fill. Here are the numbers that MLB Trade Rumors projects for each of these players in terms of their arbitration value. We'll start with that Brady Singer number that we just mentioned. MLB Trade Rumors has him at $11.9 million. Gavin Lux is projected at $5 million. Man, I cannot believe they tendered him a contract. Tyler Stephenson, $6.4 million. Nick Lodolo, $4.3 million. Graham Ashcraft comes in at $1.4 million of projected value. TJ Friedl, $4.9 million. Tony Santillan, $2.4 million. Spencer Steer, $4.5 million. Will Benson, $1.7 million. Matt McLain, $2.6 million. And Brandon Williamson clocks in at $800,000. We've already beat this over the head plenty, but Gavin Lux still being tendered a contract at a $5 million projection. Tough pill to swallow. So you ask the question, which one of these players would you like to see the Reds come to a contract agreement with? I mean, there's a number of them, obviously. Maybe someone like a Spencer Steer at a lower rate for a longer term would make sense. Nick Lodolo, obviously, if they can come to a longer term agreement, makes a ton of sense to me. Outside of that, and Tyler Stephenson, obviously, we've had that conversation before as well. Outside of that, I'm not really sure that I am overly interested in a ton of contracts with these guys. Nick, are you?
Yeah, maybe Matt McLain. I mean, if you're really able to go,
he's not going to sign it though. He's not going to sign it.
Well, he might now.
I don't know.
I would think he's probably going to say, if I wrote it out last year, I might as well write it out again.
I'm going to bet on myself again, 100%.
Yeah. Well, that's probably the advice I would tell him. I mean, I believe in Matt McLain. I hope Matt McLain believes himself more than I do. We're really cooked. Yeah, I would agree with that estimate there. I think Singer. I mean, Singer is kind of interesting just because you also have the potential of the qualifying offer. Stephenson as well with that, so you got to factor that into whatever calculation you have. If those players have great years, Stephenson probably more than Singer, because I think Stephenson has the possibility to really hit that threshold. But yeah, I mean, that's what you're looking at. Lodolo, man, I'd love like a 4-year deal with Lodolo, where maybe it's a nice little balance of, all right, Nick, we'll give you some security. I know you've had a hard time staying healthy. We'll take a risk at you. You take a little bit of a risk with us that you could outpitch that and blow that out of the water. Yeah, I think that would make sense. And then it's just Gavin Lux is the hard one. And the $5 million. The thing with arbitration, we don't know exactly what all goes in. It's supposedly something market value, but it's not as WAR and wins above replacement advanced stat based. It does seem like it values traditional stats more, which is why it's good for a guy like Gavin Lux with a high batting average. and not them valuing is clearly they're not valuing as 0.3 wins above replacement to make $5 million. But yeah, it's hard to see how Gavin Lux makes sense for the Reds in a roster crunch. He makes sense for a team with a $200 million payroll to sit on their bench and fill in and be a utility guy for sure. But for the Reds, it's hard to make sense with that to me. And there's a very good chance the Reds trade multiple of these players that are on this list.
Yeah, the one other I think I'd probably mention here is Tony Santillan. He's 28 years old, which is kind of entering the prime years for closers. And if he's expected to be your closer in 2026, I wouldn't be shocked for them to try and lock him up for a little bit of a longer term buyout. Any remaining, I can't remember what year he's in.
He's got 3 years left. You could Santiago could get like that Jonathan India contract, which was interesting because India had 3 years left, and the Reds actually signed 2 years. So the goal was they bought out the year coming up, and then the next year, and then the final year he would actually go back to arbitration. I can kind of see that making sense with Santillan. All right, Tony, you pitch really well. Let's kind of give you a little bit of a bonus, a little bit of a more security.
Yep.
And you know, if you pitch well, you'll still get that last year of arbitration and you'll make that money. He could maybe fit that kind of role. TJ Friedl could fit that kind of role as well, where maybe you buy out multiple years and not even the whole thing. That's a possibility as well. And it's nice for the player to have that security. It's nice for the team. Maybe they can hopefully save a little bit of money if that player performs really well, but they also know exactly, hey, we can plan our budget a little bit better in the future.
Yeah, Tony Santillan's about to be challenged pretty hard this upcoming season. I think he's got to be penciled in at least today as your closer for opening day in 2026. And that can go a number of ways for Santillan in 2026. He could either earn himself a massive contract when he's done with arbitration in 3 years, or he could earn himself back to Sam Moll's type of numbers, you know? So there's a lot of ways that this could go, and certainly makes sense that would be one player that maybe the Reds would look at, but we'll see. Any final thoughts on the arbitration eligible players that we didn't talk about?
No, we'll just continue to monitor that. There's a lot of players across baseball that were non-tendered that I'm interested. I'm going to try to do a show in the near future, maybe tomorrow. I'm not going to put any guarantees on it, but we'll do something at some point, kind of go through some of those players and see which guys might be fits for the Reds, because the Reds are going to need to be picking up some of those players that are on that bargain bin type deal. And I think there's some quality players in that mix.
Yep. And before you know it, the hot stove will continue to heat up shortly after Thanksgiving. Once we get through this, the MLB winter meetings officially take place December 7th through the 10th. We get a lot of rumors and even some trades and stuff actually start to heat up then. And obviously it's already started. We saw a major move, major league player for major league player, Brandon Nimmo of the New York Mets, traded for Marcus Semien of the Texas Rangers over the weekend. So definitely going to be interesting to see what happens and how that is indicative of what is yet to come this offseason in Major League Baseball. Any final thoughts, Nick? Obviously, the Rule 5 draft is during that December 10th winter meetings. International signing period ends shortly after those winter meetings. Any other final thoughts?
Draft lottery, but we don't get to participate because we're a playoff team. So we'll have to see where the Mets land in the draft lottery this year. I don't know. It's possible they aren't. Sometimes those the luxury tax teams, I don't know if they cannot. So I don't know. They might not actually.
I don't know how all that works.
Lots of good content here on Chatterbox Sports. Craig, I know there's a brand new episode of the Fly and Lion podcast recapping a great year for FC Cincinnati, an unfortunate ending. Brand new episode of Chatterbox Bearcats just dropped. I know you recapped the Cincinnati Bengals.
Sunday was rough, and I'll be live doing it again on Thursday. Complete game watch along with live reactions starting at 7:45 Eastern on Thursday night as the Bengals travel to Baltimore to take on the Ravens in the return of Joe Burrow, or at least the anticipated return of Joe Burrow. Zach Taylor non-committal.
Craig Sandlin coming into your house on Thanksgiving evening. Spend Thanksgiving with Craig Sandlin. We need that on a t-shirt.
You don't want to listen to Mike Tirico and Jason Garrett. Let's be honest. Chris Collinsworth isn't even doing the game because he refuses to work on Thanksgiving. It'd be Mike Tirico and Jason Garrett. Just turn me on. Mute the TV. Turn me on YouTube, and let's have some fun together.
I couldn't agree more.
Yep. If you are listening to this on a podcast, make sure you drop us a 5-star review. We certainly appreciate that, and it helps us reach us even more Cincinnati sports fans. And we appreciate you for tuning in. Make sure you drop us a like on YouTube, share it with your friends and family. Maybe subscribe to the channel. Get some notifications every time we drop a new video or go live with breaking news. Yeah, we appreciate it. And also make sure you check out the Black Friday sale once that drops on Friday. Chatterboxsports.com/store. For Nick Kirby, I'm Craig Sandlin. This has been Chatterbox Reds. Until next time, let's go Reds.